Up until the turn of the century, there were more than 30,000 volumes of Chinese medical literature existing. This literature was created by the cream of the Chinese intelligentsia. This means that Chinese medicine is not a folk medicine. It makes use of folk medicine, but Chinese medicine is more than a folk medicine. In China today, there are 4 to 6 year colleges of Chinese medicine turning out professional practitioners, doctors of Chinese medicine, located in every provincial capital in China. There are Chinese medical journals published in every province in China. That means more than 30 Chinese medical journals published monthly, and each one of those journals publishes somewhere between 40 and 50 articles per month. That comes out to be more than 100,000 research articles by professional practitioners generated in China every single year. So Chinese medicine is a very mature medicine. But in order to understand Chinese medicine, we have to understand that it is a completely separate and distinct system from modern Western medicine. If we look at the United States, we could have many different maps of the United States. All would describe the same landmass, but each map would be different depending upon its starting point, depending upon its view, depending upon what it was trying to accomplish. We could have maps that show roads, we could have maps that show population, we could have maps that show rainfall. Each map is true and accurate if it's true and accurate to its own goal and its own criteria, its own facts. But one map is not any realer than another map. If we're trying to go from Denver to Chicago, then what we want is a road map. But that doesn't mean that a rainfall map isn't any good. In the same way, Chinese medicine and Western medicine are both maps of health and disease in the human body. The human body is the same human body, but we can have different ways of looking at the human body. The Chinese map has been developed, as I said, for more than 2,000 years and is a very self-consistent map. When talking about Chinese medicine in English, it sometimes is difficult because I have to use English words that we already have learned definitions for in high school biology. And we've read about these words also in the press and heard them on TV. Words like the stomach or the liver, the heart or the spleen. In Chinese medicine, when we use these words, they mean something very different than when we use these words in English, normally. The Chinese spleen is not the Western spleen. The Chinese blood is not necessarily the Western blood. Each of these things has its own definition in Chinese medicine, which is neither more or less true than their definition in Western biology or Western medicine. And so I'd like to caution the listener that when they hear me use words like heart or lungs or spleen or blood, that here I'm only using them in their Chinese medical sense, not in their Western medical sense. Whether or not the way I use these words is true depends upon whether treatments based on these concepts get the intended result. In other words, either the treatment of disease or the prevention of disease and the promotion of long life and good health. When discussing traditional Chinese medicine, probably the first word or the best word to begin with is the word correspondence. This means two things respond together, co-respond. This idea of correspondence is the central idea, the central concept within the Chinese medical system. It's what makes the Chinese medical system the holistic system it is. In terms of medicine, this idea of correspondence is nicely contained in the phrase, heaven and humans correspond to each other. This means that whatever...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.